If you know me, you know that I love a great DOS spreadsheet, and so I was looking forward to doing this video on Quattro Pro. Now, if you look back on the timeline of DOS spreadsheets, you start with VisiCalc, which started out originally as an Apple II program, but it was ported to DOS, and I've done another video on that one. VisiCalc was displaced by Lotus 123, and 123 dominated the spreadsheet market for a very, very long time. There were some other competitors in there as well. My personal favorite is As Easy As. It's a shareware spreadsheet. I've done another video on that one as well. But really what displaced 123 was Quattro Pro. Quattro Pro was a really advanced spreadsheet for the time. It did some things that Lotus just wasn't going to be able to do. But I think what kept Quattro Pro from being more successful is that the move to Windows. And so as Microsoft made Windows something that kind of offices really had to go to, Quattro Pro had to be completely rewritten to run on Windows. It turns out the code base just wouldn't run on Windows as it was, so they had to rewrite it. And Excel already had a toehold on the market. But I wanted to show off really what Quattro Pro for DOS, really the last bastion of DOS spreadsheets. I wanted to show off what that looked like. So let's take a look here. Now I've got a directory here where I've installed Quattro Pro, and you can see if I do even a wide listing, you can see there's a lot of files in there, 193 different files. The executable files is that list right there, and so the main program is q.exe. That'll run Quattro Pro. Now, a significant thing to notice here, this is 5.6, a significant thing to notice here is that Quattro Pro runs by default in WYSIWYG mode. What you see is what you get. When you install the program, there's an option where you can have it run in text mode, but WYSIWYG mode is really the big deal for this version. Now I've got this set up to run without a mouse, and so you can see me run everything through the keyboard. And just to kind of look at the menus here, you can use slash to activate the menu because that was a very common thing in spreadsheets at the time. Slash was something that you used to get into the menus for Lotus 123, and so slash is something you're going to use to get in the menus for pretty much any DOS spreadsheet after that. If I hit escape to get out of the menu, you can also use the Alt key, and Alt T will bring up, for example, the Tools menu, and over here to Options. Now, the display mode, I've got it, as I said, set up for WYSIWYG. I can actually stick it over into 80 by 25. And if I had a higher resolution display, like for example, I've got PGA, I could run it in 80 by 50. But I want to show it off in WYSIWYG mode. But so let's go ahead and go into WYSIWYG, back to WYSIWYG mode. And by the way, you got lots of other video options down here as well. So depending on your video card, if you had a video card that could do 132 columns of text, you could absolutely do that as well. But I'm going to show it off today in WYSIWYG mode, which might be a little more familiar to modern users. Now the just to kind of show off, standard spreadsheet stuff in here. So if I have a list of numbers, kind of looks like that. I can do a sum of that. Now, normally, if you're going to do a summation, any kind of function in modern Excel or other kinds of spreadsheets today, you're going to use an equal sign sum, and then a range would be like A1 colon A9. That's what spreadsheet functions kind of look like today. Well, that doesn't mean anything in a DOS spreadsheet. DOS spreadsheet, that's meaningless. That's text, basically. So if you want to make that in here, I'll hit delete so we can get rid of that data. So if you wanted to make a summation, remember DOS spreadsheets used an @ sign, and that goes all the way back in the history of DOS spreadsheets. Functions have an @ sign. So what's the summation? It's going to be at sum, and then it's going to be A1, and then to do a range, and this goes back to Lotus, to do a range, it's not colon, it's dot dot. And so then A9. And so that'll do a sum of 1 to 9, which is 45. Now, a neat thing that you can do in Quattro Pro, because we are running in WYSIWYG mode, you can apply some fonts. And so if I wanted to make this cell that I'm on right here, so A10, if I wanted to make that bold, I can go into the style menu. So I'm going to bring up Alt S to go into the style menu. And then I can go down here to the font. And I want to set it for the font range of, or for the cell range of A10 to A10. Yeah, because that's the one cell that I want to do. And then here I can do the typeface. You can see the different typefaces that I have. Swiss is the sort of standard sans serif font, and then the other fonts you've got in here. Wow, script. I forgot they had a script font. Let's take a look at that. And then do I want to make it any bigger? Let's go ahead and make this one bigger. We'll make it 24 points. And what color do I want it to be? Well, I can make it any of the standard DOS colors. We'll make it blue. And let's go ahead and also turn on bold. Bold is now turned on. So I got a bunch of different things turned on. So let's go ahead and exit out of that. We should see my cell update with 45. Oops, I'm going to go ahead and set that one. There we go. And let's set it back to Swiss. And then, all right, so there we go. I've got that set to show a big text in bold Swiss, and that's my sum. Now, what are some things you would do in a spreadsheet like this? Well, you might do things like sales by quarter, right? That might be something you might do. And so you might have quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 4. And then what are your sales numbers? Well, your sales numbers might be like, I don't know, 655 123, 655 456, 655 987, and then let's do, I don't know, 654,998. Now, those are dollar values, right? So how do we adjust these four to be a dollar value? Well, we go back into the menus. So I think this one is in the style menu. And I want to do numeric format, and this is going to be a currency. And how many decimal places do I want in that? Because it's currency. Well, I could, because these are nice big round numbers, I could do 0. But let's show off currency, and so we'll do 2 decimal places. And then what block do I want? I want that block right there. And it's showing all stars. Well, why is it showing all stars? Because I now have too much information to display in the width of the column. So I need to make that column width a little wider. And I think I do that one in the styles menu as well. Yep, there we go. Column width. And then how wide do I want to make it? Well, I'm going to kind of make it, let's say that wide. And you can see that now it's able to display my numbers with the 2 decimal places on. Now, if I want to do a chart on that, because a lot of salespeople will want to do charts, we can do the graph menu. So Alt-G will bring up my graph menu. And I'm going to do we'll hit return on that. We're going to do just a standard bar graph. What series do I want? Well, the x-axis series is my quarter. So let's show that. Here's my x-axis is going to be from C2 to C5. And then my first series, which is really the data that I'm trying to chart against, we're going to do that one, and that's going to be D2 to D5. And I can add some, well, let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got. So I'll hit V for the view menu. And you can see that there's my chart. Now, all of my numbers are more or less the same. There's 655,000 plus some stuff. So I'm not getting a lot of variation. Let's go ahead and change one of them just so we can kind of see what an off quarter looks like. So we'll do 556,789. And we'll go back to our graph. We'll do V for view. I could have hit just also F10. And you can see that I got one quarter that's a little off. And that's good for demonstrating, probably not good for sales. Now, in a chart, you probably want to have a little more information than just bars and numbers. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and customize that graph. We're going to go ahead and put some text on it. So the first line is really the title. And so I might say sales by quarter. And then the second line could be whatever division you're in, and so it could be the hardware division. My X title is going to be quarter for 1996, because this program came out in 97, so it's 1996 sales. And then the Y title is going to be sales in dollars. And now if I view that chart, so I'll go down here to view, you can see that I've got my labels on my chart: sales by quarter, hardware division, quarter 1996 and sales in dollars. So you're able to generate some pretty neat charts just right away in Quattro Pro, and it's pretty easy. Now, another thing that you would do in a spreadsheet, and certainly something I've taught in some of the courses that I teach, is you'd want to do like your grades. Like if you're a student, you want to do your grades. Now, I'm going to, rather than start a whole new spreadsheet, let me actually just bring up another tab. That's another great feature of Quattro Pro. See at the bottom of the screen, got A, B, C, D, E, right? Those are all tabs. So just like you got tabs in your whatever modern spreadsheet you're using today, you have tabs that you can switch through in Quattro Pro. And I think that was new in Quattro Pro. I don't think other programs had that. I'm going to go ahead and do control. I think it's control page down. Yeah, there we go. Control page down will switch to a different tab. So I do control page up. You can see I'm back to A, and then control page down brings me down to B. If I keep doing that on the left-hand side, bottom left-hand side, you can see a little scroll bar. That actually is my scroll bar for all the different tabs. And if I just hold down control page down, you can see it'll actually run as far as it can to the end, and it'll go that many. It'll actually go up to IV number of rows. There we go. IV number of rows, or number of tabs. So you can get quite a lot of tabs in here. That's a lot of data. Let's go all the way back to my tab, which was tab B. And there we go. There we go. And so if I were a student and I were in a class, so this might be a writing class, and what do I have in this class in terms of assignments? Well, I've got, let's first of all, let's say it's a 10-week class. Let's actually use full words here because I'm using fonts. I can change the font size or whatever I need to do. So I can, you'll notice they're proportional space. So that I is up in writing is a lot smaller in terms of narrower. It sounds like an odd thing to say because we're all kind of used to these proportional fonts, but back then this was kind of a neat thing to see. Now, how many weeks do I have in this class? Let's just say it's a 10-week class. And I missed 4 in there, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. And then what do I have in the class? Well, I might have assignments, and then I would probably going to have quizzes, and I probably have some exams in that class, and I might have some papers to write because it's a class. And I'm leaving an extra cell here because I'm going to put in my actual grades over in this column, and I'm going to put my possible grades in this column. So what are my assignments? Well, my assignments might be, let's say they're 10-point assignments every week. The quizzes might be some little 5-point quiz just to kind of make sure we're staying on point. The exams happen every once in a while. We'll get to those in a second. So let's go ahead and copy this range, this B3 to D3 down to the rest. And so let's go ahead and copy that. So we'll go to the edit menu, so Alt-E, and I'll go ahead and copy. What range do I want to copy? I'm just using the arrow keys to select B3 to D3. And I'm going to copy that into B4 ... D12. And so now I've just copied 10 and 5. I've also copied a blank cell in here. Why you didn't see anything change. Now my exams, I'm probably going to have a, let's say a 100-point exam. Sure, we'll say 100-point exam as the final. And as a midterm, we have another 100-point test. We might have a couple of papers in there. So I might have a 20-point paper here. Might have a 20-point paper here, and I might have a 20-point paper at the end of the at the class. So let's go ahead and do my totals. So let's do let's do it right here. So let's do a sum for each of those. Now I could do a sum for each column. I could say at sum B3 ... B12, right? I could do that. And I could do that over here for D and over here for F, over here for H. I could do that, and I could do another sum that says, all right, add those 3 together. But remember, there's another way in sum to pull different ranges at one time. So at sum is going to be B3 ... B12, but also the range, comma, D3 ... dot dot D12 and also the range, comma. And I could just pick, not very many in here. I could just do F7 dot dot F12, but I'm going to do the same thing I did before. So I'll do F3 dot dot F12 and then also the range H3 dot dot H12. And so this class looks like it has 410 points that can be assigned. And then as I go through the semester, I would just put in, this is what I would do all the time when I was a student. I would just put in how many points I got on the assignment. So maybe 9, 8, let's say I did a 7, did a 9 again, I did an 8, did another 8, did a 7, did an 8, oops, did an 8 and an 8. Let's say I'm going to just leave this last row here alone for a second. Quizzes I did pretty well, right? I did 4s, 5s, 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4. And then exams, how did I do on my exams? Well, we only did one exam, let's say. So let's say I did 94 in that exam. And my papers, I did pretty well on that. So I did probably a 19-point paper on that one and like a 17-point paper on that one. This is the last row, and we'll come to there in a second. So as I, it probably doesn't make sense, actually, now that I think about it, to have a quiz and an exam on the last week. I'd probably only have the exam. So we'll get rid of the quiz. And that drops my points down to 405. And let's say I don't even have an assignment, because that wouldn't make sense either. So we'll take the assignment out. 395 points for this class. So I need to be able to put in what I got on my exam and what I got on the final paper, and to understand kind of what am I going to get? What do I think I'm going to get? And what do I think my grades would be? And I would do this every semester to sort of figure out for every class, how well do I need to do on the final exam to get an A or a B or whatever in the class. So let's first of all do my my summations. And so I'm going to do a at sum of C3 dot dot C12. Sure, we'll just do the whole range, even that last one's blank. And then we're going to do my actual scores on the quizzes, which is E3 dot dot E12, and then the same thing for G3 dot dot G12, and then I3 dot dot I12. And so I'm doing 242 points. And if I want to do the math on that one, it's going to be, I'm going to do it wrong, but I'll just show you how to do it right. So it's going to be C14 divided by B14. And why is that wrong? Because that's going to look like text to the spreadsheet. So it's actually going to put in the literal text of C14 divided by B14. To make that an actual, here I'll delete, get rid of it. To make that an actual calculation, we need to make it look like a number, and so we need to start that with a plus. So plus C14 divided by B14. And you can see that's 61%. If I want to make that look like an actual percentage number, I can go into my style menu, and I can do my numeric format, and I want to do percent. There it is. And how many decimal places I want on that? Let's do 1%, or 1 decimal place. And what range? Hit return on that, and that's 61.3%. But I also haven't put in my final exams. So what do I need to do for my final exam? Now, let me just put in some numbers here. What would I think I would get? Well, let's say, let's do a 90. What would 90 look like? And then over here on the final paper, what would a 19 look like? So I'm doing pretty well, 88.9. What would it take to make that actual A, 90%? What would it take to make that a 90%? Well, let's say I'm not confident of getting anything better than a 19. To be safe, let's make that an 18. And so how well do I need to do my final exam? Well, what would 100 get me? 100 actually would bring me into the A range. So how well do I need to do? Well, I just kind of put in some numbers. 95, almost there, 96. I need to do 96 on my final exam with an 18 on my final paper to get an A in the class. And I do this kind of stuff all the time. Now, some other stuff you can do in here is you can actually do some formatting. So let's do some formatting. So I think it's in the style. And let's apply some shading. And we're going to go ahead and make this sort of a gray shading. And what block do I want to shade? I want to shade everything here as the assignments, because that's not my scores, those are the possible scores. And let's hit return on that. And you can see I've got sort of this dotted sort of background on there. I'm going to do that over here in quizzes as well. So style, shading, gray down there. Then down here for exams, style, shading, gray. And you can see kind of what I'm doing. It's just sort of just highlighting some stuff in my spreadsheet. Shading, gray, and then that range. And so that might help me as a reminder that those aren't my scores, those are the maximum scores. I probably would have a thing in here saying my score, my score. And I might even do a different style up here as the heading. So I'll do a style, shading, do this one as, let's do this black, and we'll highlight the entire row. Oops. Yep, there we go. And so that's, you can see that's been made sort of black. It looked not black for a second because my cursor was on A2, but if I move my cursor off A2, you can see the entire heading row there has been made into black, or in this case, very, very dark gray. And then down here, I might want to highlight these cells. And so I might say, all right, style, shading, we'll do this one as colored. I'm going to do that range, and we'll do that one as for the cyan color. And you can see that now I got that as cyan color. And then we'll just do this one as yellow, just to round it off. Shading that cell and down there to yellow. And so that allows me to do some shading. And so this sort of WYSIWYG mode. Now Lotus 123 did have a WYSIWYG mode, but this is, I think, way more integrated. It feels way more smooth. By the way, if you're having trouble reading any of this, you can just go into the menus, and I think it's options. And I can do WYSIWYG zoom. And so if I want to make that a little bigger, I might make that 120% zoom. You can see that all my text gets a little bit bigger. Bring the zoom back out to 100, or even down a little smaller and make it 90. You can see that I can now change the zoom on my spreadsheet. Let's change it back to 100, just because I want to see it a little bit better. And so you get some great features in here with Quattro Pro, and I really do think this is kind of a neat spreadsheet. What got them into trouble was you could actually change the menu to be much more like Lotus 123, and so I think that was in the options menu, if I recall correctly, and I think it was in startup, and then menu system. And so here you can see the default was Quattro. I'm going to change it over to 123. And you see at the top of the screen, it's now changed, and that's should be the same menu that you get when you're using Lotus 123. And so if I do slash to get into that menu, I can navigate down there, and these options have now completely changed. And that's because now the menu system, because you can see that there was an ability to edit that menu. The menu systems have been defined to look exactly like Lotus 123. Lotus 123 brought them to court, and ultimately the court found that you couldn't copyright basically a menu, so they were able to keep doing this. So it's sort of a neat way to provide some compatibility for the previous version or users that were using Lotus 123. And if you go into, by the way, just one more thing to show off, you go into F1, and that'll bring up the help. And you know, they've got different things in here, like all the different functions that you have that you can use in Lotus 123 in Quattro Pro. But escape to go. Let's go bring after the help menu. This 123 Quattro Pro for 123 users, and they show some things that in features here. An overview of the features that are not available in Lotus 123. So multiple windows you can have open all at one time. It's got a built-in file manager. You know, graph buttons. I like the graph buttons as well. And I mentioned before, the 132 column display is a really neat feature. So I don't recall ever using the transcript, but you know, the windows, the file manager, the graph buttons, I thought were kind of cool. And certainly that 132 column display. If you've got a video card that can do it, more power to you. So I just wanted to show off Quattro Pro. I'll go ahead and exit the program here. So go into Q, and do I want to lose my changes? Sure. And so that was Quattro Pro. So before I go, I just wanted to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon. You really do make this channel happen. Some of you are supporting me at a higher level, and I wanted to thank you especially here. So thank you very much. And that's it for this week. What other programs would you like me to try out? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, visit our website at freedos.org. Join us on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you.